The first distress beacon from Haven 3 lasted only 9 seconds. 9 seconds of garbled static, of voices shouting over one another, of an alarm so shrill it bled through every channel. Then silence. Admiral Ward had heard 1,000 transmissions in his career, but nothing like this. The beacon's abrupt end pressed into him like a weight, heavier than the polished admiral's insignia on his chest. He replayed those 9 seconds in his head as he stood inside the command bridge of the dreadnought Resolute. The hollow hum of the reactor throbbed underfoot, a reminder of the warship's dormant power. "Still nothing from surface scanners?" he asked, voice low but edged. Commander Lyra Mendez, his second-in-command, shook her head. "The colony's communications grid is cold. No biosigns, no heat signatures. It's as if 3 million souls just..." She stopped, jaw tightening. "Vanished." The bridge crew worked in silence. No one dared say what hung between them: annihilation. Haven 3 wasn't a military outpost, not a strategic target. It was a farming colony, its fields feeding the outer rim. Families lived there, children, teachers, workers. Wiping it out wasn't war. It was slaughter. Ward turned to the holomap projected at the center of the bridge. A sphere of pale blue shimmered where Haven 3 should be. Around it, faint red markers pulsed, the last recorded signatures of unknown ships. He zoomed in. Jagged silhouettes, no known match in Council archives. Predators. "Whoever did this," Ward said, his voice steady though his blood burned. "They weren't here for conquest. They came to erase." Lyra's eyes hardened. "And they left us no survivors to question." Ward let silence stretch. Every officer on the bridge knew what this meant. The Terran Alliance had survived betrayal, embargo, even exile from the Galactic Council. But this was different. Someone had dared strike at humanity's heart, and worse, they had targeted the innocent. The Admiral drew in a slow breath. "Bring Fleet Command online. Secure channel only." The holomap flickered, shifting from the colony's ghostly remains to the looming symbol of Earth's War Council, an iron circle, encasing the outline of the planet. When the channel opened, 6 admirals appeared in blue holographic light. Weathered faces, sharp eyes, voices seasoned by decades of conflict. Ward didn't wait for the formalities. "Haven 3 is gone," he said. "Not disabled. Not captured. Gone. 3 million dead in under an hour. Attackers unknown. Based on residual energy signatures, they used weapons we haven't catalogued." A ripple of shock quickly masked. Admiral Vera leaned forward, her voice a low growl. "And you're certain this wasn't a planetary catastrophe? Core rupture? Atmospheric collapse?" Ward shook his head once. "The colony's core was stable. The atmosphere intact. This was deliberate extermination." The weight of his words dropped like stone. Silence again. Then Admiral Casimir broke it, voice flat. "We've warned the Council for decades. They ignored us. Now we bleed." Vera's eyes burned with fury. "We cannot stand idle." Ward gave the order he had known was inevitable the moment the distress beacon ended. "Mobilize all fleets. Every battle group, every carrier, every strike wing. We launch 500,000 ships at dawn." The chamber's light seemed to sharpen, as though the very stars beyond the hull bent closer to listen. The number was no exaggeration. Earth's hidden strength, built quietly through exile and necessity, was about to move. 500,000 warships, an armada no empire could ignore. "Targets?" Admiral Chen asked, voice calm but dangerous. Ward gestured, and the holomap shifted again. The jagged silhouettes reappeared, surrounded by glowing red pathways, projected travel routes traced backward through known hyperspace lanes. They converged on one sector, a stretch of uncharted void known as the Black Expanse. "We don't know who they are," Ward admitted. "But they struck us first. And they will not live to strike us again." Mendez stepped forward, eyes locked on the projection. "Admiral, 500,000 ships is everything we've prepared for in exile. Once they move, there's no going back." Ward turned to her, his voice dropping to something colder. Lyra, they killed our children. Tell me, what more reason do we need? The Council of Admirals said nothing, but one by one they gave the nod. Earth had made its decision. The order spread like fire through the comm networks, through encrypted relays buried under moons and stations across human space. At first it was whispers, rumors among dock crews, a flicker of urgency in officers' voices. Then it became thunder. Engines lit across the Terran Alliance. Docks emptied. Black hulls streaked the skies. Humanity's silence was over. Ward remained at the Resolute's viewport long after the council had ended. Beyond, the stars glimmered indifferent, ancient as always. But now, humanity was no longer patient. He remembered the 9 seconds of Haven 3's cry for help. The raw panic, the screams drowned in static. He etched it into his memory. When he spoke, it was barely more than a whisper, but every soul on the bridge heard it. For Haven 3, we bring fire. And the largest war fleet in human history began to rise. The Resolute slipped into hyperspace like a blade sliding into flesh, its vast hull vanishing into the burning swirl of transit. Around it, thousands of human warships did the same. Across the scattered systems of the Terran Alliance, the other fleets followed, carrier groups, dreadnought squadrons, stealth wings. The stars themselves seemed to shiver as 500,000 ships burned toward war. On the bridge, Admiral Ward stood with hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on the shifting currents of hyperspace. For a man of iron reputation, he looked older today, creased lines around his eyes, the fatigue of endless command. Yet his voice carried none of it. "Status report," he said. "Fleet cohesion at 99.6%. Mendez answered. Her tone carried crisp precision, but Ward heard the weight beneath it. The thought of so many ships moving in unison, so many lives bound to his single command, would have staggered a lesser officer. For her, it was fuel. Ward nodded. "And the scouts?" "Already ahead of us," she replied. "Ghost frigates sweeping the expanse for any trace of the enemy. So far, only radiation trails." "But," she hesitated. "But the trails don't match conventional drives. The signatures are fragmented, like the ships themselves were phasing in and out of reality." Ward frowned, turning that over in his mind. A weapon? A technology beyond council reach? If the attackers could appear and vanish at will, they were not simply raiders. They were something worse, predators who chose when and where to kill. He forced the thought down. Doubt was a luxury. A junior officer broke the silence. "Admiral, incoming transmission from Outpost Theta 7. Priority Alpha." Ward gestured. On screen. The holomap lit, revealing the weathered face of Captain Juno Wraith. Behind him, the steel walls of a frontier station rattled with distant alarms. "Admiral," Wraith barked, voice tight. "We've got movement on the edge of the expanse. Unidentified vessels, Shadow class, slipping between sensor sweeps. They don't match anything in council records." "How many?" Ward asked. Wraith's face darkened. "Hard to count. At least 1,000, maybe more. And Admiral." He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "They aren't just moving. They're hunting. Every patrol ship we send vanishes. No wreckage. No distress calls. Just silence." Ward felt the bridge crew stiffen. He kept his own expression steady. "Hold your station, Captain. Reinforcements are inbound." Wraith gave a sharp nod. "We'll hold, sir. But if they come in force, Theta 7 won't last long." The feed cut. For a long moment, the bridge was quiet, broken only by the hum of the engines. Mendez exhaled slowly. "If they're striking outposts, it means they're testing us. They want to see how we react." Ward's jaw tightened. "Then let's give them something to fear." He turned to the tactical officer. "Signal the nearest battle groups. Form a spearhead and make for Theta 7 at maximum burn. The rest of the fleet will follow in waves." No hesitation. The order rippled through the comms. Moments later, the Resolute surged ahead, engines screaming through hyperspace. Hours later, Theta-7 filled the viewport. A lonely outpost on the edge of nowhere, its spires clung to a barren asteroid, lights flickering weakly. Even before dropping from hyperspace, the threat was clear. Dark shapes prowled the void beyond the station, ships like shards of obsidian, angular and jagged, as if cut from nightmares. They moved without pattern, sliding in and out of sensor range, almost as if the universe itself struggled to contain them. The first officer's voice cracked through the silence. Visual confirmed. Unknown fleet, estimated 2,000 strong. 2,000 against Theta-7's handful of defense guns. A slaughter in waiting. Ward's gaze sharpened. Bring us in. Weapons hot. The bridge trembled as the fleet tore free of hyperspace. 5,000 human warships materialized at once, steel titans casting their shadows across the asteroid base. Theta-7's alarms wailed as the obsidian predators froze, caught in the sudden blaze of humanity's arrival. Open channel, Ward ordered. The enemy's ships gave no response. No signals. No demands. They simply shifted, as though tasting the new arrivals. Ward leaned forward, voice cold as the void. This is Admiral Ward of the Terran Alliance. You have killed our people. You have burned our worlds. Now you face us. The predators moved. They surged as one, black spears streaking toward the human armada. Beams of pale energy split the dark, tearing space itself as they lanced for the Resolute. Shields! Mendez snapped. The ship shuddered, blue light flaring across its hull as the first barrage struck. The bridge dimmed, alarms wailing, but the shield held. Ward's voice never rose. Return fire. The Resolute spoke with fury. A volley of railgun slugs roared into the void, followed by lances of plasma. Across the fleet, 500,000 guns ignited, turning the stars into daylight. Obsidian ships shattered. Their jagged forms cracked, breaking apart in silence. But others pressed closer, moving unnaturally, bending around shots that should have torn them in two. Admiral! Mendez called, eyes wide. Some of them are phasing through our fire. Ward gripped the rail, eyes narrowing. So it was true. The enemy danced between realities untouchable. He drew a breath, then spoke with the steel certainty that had carried humanity through exile. Then we burn what they cannot dodge. Prepare saturation strike. Every ship, every gun. No gaps. No escape. The order thundered across the fleet. Warships realigned, turrets tracked, missile bays primed. Then, in a single blinding instant, the void erupted. Tens of thousands of warheads screamed into the expanse, their detonations rippling in waves. Plasma rivers crossed in blazing nets, railguns thundered like gods of old. For the first time, the enemy's ships faltered. Phasing or not, even shadows could not slip through fire that filled the stars themselves. One by one, their obsidian hulls shattered. Silent predators burned, caught in the storm of a species that refused to die. On the Resolute's bridge, Ward's voice was steady. This is only the beginning. The wreckage of the enemy fleet drifted across the void like shards of glass, black hulls still glowing with the heat of destruction. Yet for all the firepower humanity unleashed, Admiral Ward felt no triumph. This battle was only a glimpse. 2,000 ships, expendable scouts. Whoever commanded them had not yet shown their true hand. On the Resolute's bridge, silence pressed heavy. Crews scanned the debris, but most avoided looking too long at the fractured hulls. There was something unsettling about them, angles that bent the eye, surfaces that seemed to ripple even when broken. Mendez stepped closer, voice hushed. Admiral, the survivors. Ward turned sharply. Survivors? A handful of their ships are disabled, not destroyed. Hull breaches, engines cold, but life signs detected. If that's what they are. Ward's gaze hardened. This was the first opportunity to learn who they faced. Bring one aboard. Containment protocols at maximum. I want to see what kind of monsters slaughtered Haven 3. Moments later, grappling beams pulled the twisted ruin of an enemy corvette into the Resolute's hangar. The vessel groaned against restraints, its surface flickering like a half-formed mirage. Marines waited in full exoarmor, weapons drawn. Ward descended with Mendez at his side. The stench hit first: ozone, burned metal, something acrid and alien. The corvette's hatch hissed open, not by human hands but as though it sensed their presence. From the darkness, figures stumbled out. They were tall, gaunt, wrapped in armor that seemed grown rather than forged. Their skin shimmered like oil on water, shifting colors and unnatural patterns. Their eyes, if they were eyes, burned white, empty of pupils. One fell to its knees, emitting a sound halfway between a hiss and a whisper. The Marines raised rifles instantly, but Ward lifted a hand. "Hold fire!" The creature's mouth opened wider than human jaws should allow. A voice spilled out, not natural, not spoken. It was layered, echoing, as though several beings spoke at once. "You should not have followed." The words slithered into the hangar, crawling into the ears of every human present. A ripple of unease passed through the Marines, but none broke stance. Ward stepped forward. "You murdered millions of innocents. You will answer for it." The being tilted its head, as though studying prey. "They were not innocents. They were a message." Ward's jaw tightened. "A message to who?" The creature's lips curled, not a smile but something worse. "To you. To the species that should not have endured. The others fell to us. You were meant to vanish with them. Yet you persisted." Mendez's hand hovered near her sidearm. "Others? What others?" The being's flickering gaze swept the humans. "We devoured empires before your kind lit fire. We erased their names, their stars, their bones. Now it is your turn. But you multiply, you fight, you burn. You are an error in the silence." Ward took another step, close enough that the creature's shifting skin seemed to distort in his reflection. "If you've erased so many, why do you fear us enough to send shadows instead of armies?" The alien hissed, its body convulsing as though the word stung. "Fear? No. Curiosity. To see how the mistake breaks." Without warning, the prisoner's body rippled. Its form shimmered, half vanishing, as though trying to phase out of reality. Restraints snapped, alarms blared. The Marines opened fire, shredding the figure in a hail of plasma bolts. But even as its body collapsed, the voice lingered, echoing through the hangar walls. "We come! We come! We come!" Then it was gone. Only silence remained. Ward turned slowly to Mendez. Her face was pale, but her eyes steady. "That wasn't a prisoner," she said. "That was a herald." Ward nodded once. "And the real storm is still ahead." The next hours were spent dissecting the wreck. Human engineers pried into alien hull plating that writhed under tools, systems that dissolved into smoke when probed. Nothing stayed stable long enough to analyze. It was as if the ship itself refused to be understood. But there was one discovery. Deep within the shattered core, data fragments remained, symbols burned into crystalline structures. The linguists could not decode it, but the navigation officers recognized the pattern. Coordinates. Mendez laid the projection before Ward in the strategy chamber. Red stars flared across the map, all converging on a single point deeper in the black expanse. "Whatever they are," she said quietly, "this is their nest." Ward studied the projection. His reflection in the glass map was hard, lined, yet unyielding. "Then we cut it out. No hesitation. No mercy." Mendez hesitated. "Admiral, if this is their heart, we don't know what kind of numbers they can bring. We've seen 2,000 ships, maybe scouts. What if they have tens of thousands more?" Ward's answer was immediate. "Then 500,000 warships will remind them humanity doesn't bend." His words carried across the chamber like a vow. The officers around the table straightened, the weight of command settling into them. Humanity had faced predators before. Disease, famine, empires that sought to chain them. Each time, they had adapted. Endured. Survived. This time, the enemy called them an error in the silence. Ward would prove that humanity was not an error at all. They were the storm that silence could not contain. He turned, issuing the command. Plot course for those coordinates. Prepare the fleet. The hunters are about to learn what it means to be hunted. The stars outside the Resolute blurred as engines flared, 500,000 ships pivoting as one. And the march into the true darkness began. The black expanse swallowed light. Even with a fleet of 500,000 warships burning through the void, the darkness pressed in as though it resented their presence. Stars here were faint, distant, flickering like dying embers. Sensors struggled, returning only static and distortions. On the Resolute's bridge, tension was a living thing. Officers spoke in clipped tones, eyes locked to their stations. Ward stood at the center, posture unyielding, gaze fixed on the void ahead. Status of the fleet? He asked. Mendez answered without looking up. All wings accounted for. Carriers maintaining formation. Ghost frigates scouting in wide arcs, but Admiral. She hesitated. We're blind. The expanse is scrambling our scans. It's like the void itself is fighting us. Ward absorbed the words, then spoke calmly. Then we navigate the way humans always have, forward. The bridge crew stiffened but obeyed. Humanity had crossed uncharted oceans, barren deserts, frozen wastes. They had endured because retreat was never their instinct. Hours passed. Then, without warning, the void shifted. Contact! A sensor officer barked. Massive signatures, bearing 360 by 10. The holomap flared to life, drowning the bridge in red. Shapes emerged, hundreds at first, then thousands. Jagged silhouettes filled the darkness, converging in impossible numbers. Mendez's breath caught. By the stars, it's an armada. Ward's face hardened as the scale became clear. The enemy fleet dwarfed anything the Terran Alliance had imagined. 50,000 ships at least. Perhaps more. The predators had been waiting. Form up! Ward commanded. Battle line theta pattern. Carriers behind, dreadnoughts forward. Do not break cohesion. The human fleet shifted, steel titans aligning with practiced precision. Engines flared, shields lit, weapons armed. Across 500,000 hulls, humanity braced for war. The enemy did not wait. Their armada surged, black spears stabbing forward, each ship moving like a shard of shadow given life. They did not roar, did not signal. They simply came, as inevitable as a collapsing star. Enemy weapons charging! The tactical officer warned. Ward's eyes narrowed. Hold fire! The first wave struck. Beams of white fire slashed across the void, tearing through shields, piercing carriers. 3 human cruisers exploded at once, their wreckage scattering into the expanse. The fleet shuddered but held. Return fire, Ward ordered. The Resolute unleashed its fury, railguns thundering, plasma lances spearing forward. Across the armada, human weapons ignited in a storm that lit the void like dawn. Obsidian ships shattered under the onslaught, but the swarm pressed closer, slipping between barrages, phasing through solid fire. Alarms wailed. The bridge trembled. But humanity did not yield. Signal all ships, Ward commanded, his voice steel against the chaos. No retreat. No surrender. We fight until the expanse itself burns. The comms carried his words, and the fleet answered, not with words, but with fire. Hours dragged into nightmare. The battle was unlike any in human history. Enemy ships multiplied in the darkness, slipping from nowhere, clawing at flanks. Human squadrons broke, reformed, bled. Casualty reports poured in, but Ward refused to look. Not yet. In the chaos, one truth became clear: the enemy was not fighting to win. They were testing, probing, watching. Their attacks were ferocious but never final, as though they waited for something. Mendez realized it first. Admiral, they're not committing their full strength. This isn't the nest. This is the wall around it. Ward's eyes narrowed. The coordinates from the prisoner hadn't led to their heart, they had led to the threshold. The predators were guarding something deeper. He leaned over the holomap, tracing the flows of enemy movement. They're hurting us. Forcing the fleet inward. Toward what? Mendez demanded. Ward's gaze locked on the deepest part of the expanse, where even sensors failed completely. A void within the void. Their true home, he said. Where they believe no one dares to go. Another enemy wave slammed into the fleet, breaking 2 carriers and crippling a destroyer line. Fire consumed the stars. Ward clenched the rail. His voice dropped to a whisper, but every officer heard it. Then that is where we will go. He straightened, eyes burning. Order the spearhead forward. All ships prepare for deep push. We break through their wall and strike their heart. Humanity does not wait to be hunted. The bridge surged with movement, officers relaying the command. Engines roared, weapons cycled, formations shifted. And then, something new appeared. The void ahead shimmered, twisting like heat on desert stone. From it, a shape emerged, vast, towering, dwarfing even the Resolute. The crew froze. The air seemed to thin. The Predator's warship stretched for kilometers, its surface a writhing abyss, alive and shifting. It was not a vessel, it was a leviathan, a fortress birthed from the expanse itself. The enemy's flagship had arrived. Mendez's voice trembled for the first time. Admiral, what is that? Ward's eyes locked on the monster, unflinching. Our target, he said. The bridge quaked as the leviathan opened its maw, white light boiling inside. And for the first time, Ward felt the full weight of what humanity faced. Not shadows. Not raiders. An empire that had consumed galaxies. But he also knew something else. Humanity had never been stronger, never more united. 500,000 ships stood ready. The order came without hesitation. All guns, fire on my mark. The Leviathan loomed, light gathering for annihilation. Ward's voice cut through the storm. Mark! And the largest barrage in human history roared toward the heart of the expanse. The void erupted. 500,000 human warships unleashed everything at once. Railguns thundered like planetary quakes. Plasma burned like newborn stars. Missile swarms lit the expanse in white fire. The storm struck the Leviathan with such force that the darkness itself seemed to tear. The enemy warship shuddered. Its surface writhed, melting and reforming as if reality itself tried to hold it together. For a heartbeat, it staggered under the fury of humanity's armada. Then it answered. A single beam of white annihilation erupted from its maw, carving through the fleet like a scythe. 20 ships vanished instantly, reduced to dust. A carrier split in half, spilling fire and bodies into the void. The scream of loss echoed through comms, but the fleet did not falter. Ward gripped the railing, eyes locked on the monster. Press the assault. No gaps. We bleed, but so do they. Mendez's voice cut through the chaos. Admiral, our weapons are hitting, but the Leviathan's core is regenerating. We can't kill it with brute force alone. Ward turned sharply. Then we find its heart. Every creature, every empire has one. The tactical holomap flickered, showing damage patterns across the Leviathan. The outer shell shifted constantly, but deeper inside, a rhythm pulsed. A hidden core. Ward pointed. There. Its center. If we drive hard enough, we crack it open. The order spread like fire. Strike wings broke formation, diving close, weaving between beams of white fire. Dreadnoughts concentrated their salvos. The Resolute pushed forward, shields burning, weapons roaring. The Leviathan howled, not with sound, but with a ripple that tore through comms, a psychic scream that clawed at the mind. Officers staggered, some clutching their heads. A voice seeped through the static, cold and vast. You are nothing. You were meant to vanish. We devoured empires greater than yours. You cannot kill silence. Ward leaned forward, teeth bared. We're not here to kill silence. We're here to replace it. He slammed his fist down. All ships, overcharged reactors. Burn them if you must. Push everything into this strike. Engines roared, hulls trembled. Across the fleet, captains made the choice, survival or sacrifice. And every one of them chose sacrifice. Humanity did not come this far to hesitate. The barrage intensified, a tidal wave of fire punching into the Leviathan's core. Shields melted, armor cracked, reactor cores strained. Ships exploded, but the rest pressed on. Finally, the Leviathan faltered. Its surface split, exposing a burning wound deep inside. A heart of white fire, pulsing, struggling to hold form. Mendez's eyes widened. That's it. That's the core. Ward's voice was steady, resolute. Then we finish it. He opened fleet-wide comms. His voice carried to 500,000 ships, to every soldier, every pilot, every human in the expanse. For Haven 3. For every world they tried to erase. For every child they silenced. Today, humanity speaks with fire. And the galaxy will remember our voice. The fleet answered as one. Missiles poured into the wound. Plasma lances carved deeper. Railguns hammered like gods of war. The Leviathan convulsed, its hull shaking the stars. Its beam faltered, its hull split wider, reality itself unraveling around it. And then light. The core imploded, collapsing into itself, dragging the Leviathan inward. A white vortex swallowed the monster, tearing it apart piece by piece until nothing remained but fragments drifting in silence. The void stilled. The expanse was quiet. On the Resolute's bridge, the crew sat in stunned silence. Breathing hard, bloodied, but alive. Humanity had faced the heart of the predators, and survived. Mendez turned slowly to Ward. Admiral, we did it. Ward's face was carved from iron, but his eyes burned with something deeper, not triumph, but certainty. No. We proved we can do it. But this was only their first Leviathan. There will be more. The crew stiffened at his words, but he continued, voice carrying the weight of command. They called us an error in the silence. Today we showed them the truth. Humanity is not an error. We are the answer. He raised his gaze to the stars beyond the viewport, voice low but unbreakable. And as long as one human breathes, the silence will never return. Across human space, the victory roared like thunder. News spread of the Leviathan's fall, of the 500,000 warships that defied extinction. Colonies wept, celebrated, and armed themselves. The Terran Alliance was no longer hidden in exile. It had stepped into the light, and declared war. The predators would return. That much was certain. But they would no longer find a species waiting to die. They would find humanity, unyielding, unbroken, united. And when the next Leviathan came, the galaxy itself would tremble at the fire in humanity's silence.